when I look back at that race, and I've looked back at that race quite a bit, it was a phenomenal race. Did I feel like I was going, 44 seconds? No. I mean, I had no idea. I was racing Carl Polowitz. I remember he was right next to me, and I could kind of I could see his hands a little bit, but I kept telling myself, just don't pay attention to it. Push down that little voice inside your head that says he's gonna speed up, he's gonna try and beat you. Just focus on yourself, focus on your technique. And I remember that there was a moment there on that second lap when I stopped paying attention to everything else that was going on around me. Even to this day, it still feels surreal that I got myself into a certain kind of headspace where the only thing I had in my mind was running through the plan that I had created with my coach and practiced at least 100 times, if not more. And executing that plan. We had planned on the third flip turn being the hardest because you're out of breath. You just want to breathe. You got to come up for air. And we had practiced on staying underwater. And I remember going into that flip turn and just feeling my lungs burn. And my coach had told me, his name was Tom Wiley, my junior year. He was a new coach. Really great guy. He only coached me my junior and senior year. He had the mind over matter kind of mentality in terms of air and when you need to breathe, and that if you just convince yourself that you don't need air, you don't need to breathe, your body might not want it so much. He was a very mental kind of coach. He wanted to really strengthen your mental faculties quite a bit. Mind over matter, convince yourself that you can do something even though your body says no. And that race in particular, looking back, I probably wasn't focusing on any of the swimmer because I was a little bit ahead of them. But in my mind, I had blinders on, and I wasn't going to try and see if I was ahead or behind. I just kept my head locked right where it was at, right kind of, pointed down just a little bit, and just went through the plan, and followed that plan as closely as I could. And I think that was, the first time I had ever had a flawless execution of the plan, because we had practiced it, going at slower speeds. And then when you're in a race, sometimes you just kind of react. You take an extra breath when you might not have needed to. Those sprints happen so quickly that they're over pretty fast. And muscle memory is really all you have to go on. But when I was in that race, I remember that last lap was just almost so surreal. I lost complete feeling in my arms and legs that last lap, trying to finish it off. In hindsight, I know why, is because I went out so fast for my first 50 split. I think I would have placed like third in the 50 free with my 50 split my junior year. I didn't plan to go out that fast. It just kind of happened, But I remember that last lap and just feeling like my whole body was shutting down. My arms felt like jello. I couldn't even pull underwater anymore. But our plan was to just not breathe. Keep that head down, breathe only if you need to every fifth stroke. If not, just keep your head down. And a thought crossed through my mind somewhere the last half of that lap, and it was a thought of my grandmother. To this day, I can't even tell you why. I've never once thought about my grandmother during a race ever in my life. She had passed away a couple years before that, but my thought just drifted right to her. and then I was at the wall. So, it's not something that I can really explain. I don't really know if that was something that really helped, but it definitely took my mind off of what was happening. And all of a sudden I just touched the wall, and like the race was over, and it kind of was like my mind totally shut off. My body kept going through the motions, but my mind just shut off. There was nothing else happening after that thought of her came into my head. And I remember touching that wall and feeling an intense pain of not breathing, taking that breath, and I looked up at my time because I just was really excited. Like, did I just win? And I noticed my time. I didn't even notice that I won first. I noticed my time and saw that 44, and I remember looking around the clock being like, that's got to be like a countdown or something. That probably isn't my time. And it just being all so surreal, like wondering if it was just, the countdown till the meet was over kind of clock or something like that. None of it seemed real. But after that race, something definitely did change from a mental standpoint with me, is that I realized that I could achieve a level of focus during my swimming races that would block out a lot of what my body was trying to tell me. And I think I was able to leverage that my senior year and then on in through college. And it was just the most, weirdest thing at the time. Having your mind shut down and your body just kind of follow a set of directions.
That's goosebumps stuff,
after
man,
that,
about your
it
grandma.
got a lot easier.
Goosebumps stuff, man. I mean, seriously.
I know,
like,
right? I know.
I'm not the most religious person in the world, but like when you tell me that story, I'm moved to feel like that wasn't an accident, like it almost like I don't know, I can't help it, but I'm moved to feel like your grandmother somewhere knew you needed her at that moment, like you were struggling, and it was like she came to you and took your mind off of everything. And the way you described it, before I knew it, I was at the wall, like whatever that was, that moment, she escaped you from everything that you were going through. And the next conscious thought you have is the wall. Like, that's powerful to me.
Yeah, it still is, for me today. I think back to that, and it lingered in my mind after the race. Like, why did I think about Nana? Why was my grandmother on my mind? And it definitely took me a little while to digest all of that and to kind of replay it in my head. And, all I can come up with is that the thought of her just unlocked something, whether it was distracting me from what my body was telling me, or whether it was something more that helped propel me, because that was a life changer. That 44 seconds, that's what got me into college. That's what gave me the confidence to get to trials. That one race and in that one moment was, that was a fork in the road for my life. That was either going to be, I'm going to get to go to any college I want to and get to choose what I want to do for my degree, or I'm just going to be another swimmer, that enjoyed a little bit of success in high school, and, it's not really a main focus of my life.
That's why we needed to talk, Bill.
It's still...
They don't write that story in the Detroit News.
I
can't just pull up newspapers.com and find that story. You have to tell me that.